Hey guys, Jay at Broader Performance here. Alright, this is something I want you to pay attention to. It's extremely important on this unit, and it's surprisingly something that I don't get many questions on. In fact, this is one of those things where I'm actually a little bit disappointed in people for not asking about this, because I know they don't understand it because of the number of problems I get. So we sell a lot of valve bodies to people, a lot of manual valve bodies and trans brake valve bodies. And with these type of valve bodies, very critical is the alignment of the manual select valve, because all the shifts are run off of the manual select valve. And if you don't know what the manual select valve is, let me try to get in here a little bit. This is going to be this valve here that slides back and forth when you move the manual lever. So what happens on this unit is they're often misaligned, and I'm putting a unit here together, and this is with a trans brake valve body. You can see the solenoid in there. It doesn't really matter if it's trans brake or not, and really honestly it doesn't matter if it's our valve body, somebody else's, just a factory valve body that's auto shift, shift kit, whatever. All of them, every one of them, except for the early model that did not have the detent in the case. If you look down in here, it's got this spring, and there's a roller on the end of it, and that's your detent position. Now the early models, the detent was in the valve body, so that one we're not talking about. So this is going to be 1972 to 1996. This is most of them. This needs to be checked. And you know, a lot of people say, well, man, I put your valve body in, I don't have second gear, I don't have first gear, I don't have third gear, or it's doing this, doing that. And I'll know right away that either it could be their shifter adjustment, which I'm going to go over that in another video too, because that's not as simple as you think, especially with this unit. I know people think, well, that's simple, I know how to do that. Do you? Because a lot of people don't, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's not as easy as you think, especially on a C6. C6 is unique in that respect. But again, I'm going to go over all that in another video at some point. So anyways, what I want to talk about now is how do we make sure this alignment is correct. And I'm going to tell you right off, I build a lot of C6s. More often than not, the alignment is off. If I don't have to adjust it, I'm a lot more surprised by that than when I do have to adjust it. So I want you to understand that right away. So if you put in, especially if it's our valve body, because I'm going to get the call, or these days it's email. I'm going to get the email with you saying it doesn't work or you're missing a gear. Well, I don't want that anymore. I already know this thing works. It's dynoed. That's why it's full of transmission fluid when you get it. I know you're not missing a gear. At least not from the valve body. It's more than likely it's an alignment issue. So we're going to go over that. So first thing I want you to see, so you're going to put this in, and if you look here, so I've got two bolts in. I've got this one here, and I've got this one here, okay? And I just put those two in to start with. They're not tight. This will still wiggle around a little bit. And the reason I tell you to put those two in is because those are the two that align the valve body from the factory. Those, if you look at the casting, those two holes are a little bit smaller than all the others. So those are the ones that actually locate it. So I've got those in there, and I give you instructions with this, and it tells you to put the transmission in reverse. And if we look here, this is what I tell you to look at. I tell you to look at this valve, and I believe the instructions say something or other about it being flush with the end of the casting. So this is the end of the casting, this flat surface here, and this valve is inset. Now, it can be inset some. The instructions do say it can be inset to roughly where this chamfer is, okay? And some of them are just like a straight 45, and some of them are actually a counterbore, depending on which model of valve body it is. They kind of changed that over the years, but this one here is in too far. Okay, I can tell by looking at it. So this one here, I suspect a problem. So I'm going to, I hadn't done this yet, I'm going to see how far in it is. So I'm just going to take this, and I'm just going to get a rough idea of how far in it is, okay? And it's a little tricky getting in here, I'll be honest with you. And I'm having a little bit of trouble with one hand here, trying to hold the camera, but so that valve is in about, let's look, about 115 thou. That's too much. It's inward too far. I don't really want it in too much. You know, in with that counterbore is fine, but that's usually about 50, 60 thou. It's okay to be flush with the back, but I really prefer it inboard. You know, 20, 30 thou maybe is about ideal. 50 thou is fine. Maybe 60 is fine. 115 is too much. So I'm going to show you how I fix that. That's going to be the first check we're going to make and the first thing we're going to correct. And I really wish I had somebody to hold the camera for me. I'm going to do the best I can with this. So I'm going to take the valve body out. And this is something, it requires patience. And I get frustrated, honestly, because it's like, man, why do I got to do this almost every time? But it's just the way it is, and it's one of the things you just deal with on these things. But it's what it takes to make them right. So I'm going to take this back off. Alright, so basically, the first thing you want to kind of look at is this thing damaged in some way? And when I say this thing, I mean this piece here. Okay? I just kind of look at it, you know, is it badly bent, or, you know, do I see a crack in it or anything? And I don't see anything like that. I would say maybe, if anything, that bottom portion, the rooster comb there, looks a little bit bent, but it lines up really well with the spring and roller. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but let's see what we can do with it here. So what I'm going to do, here's how I fix this. And let's go get a tool here. Okay. So here's what I use. It's a really big adjustable wrench. You can also use like a big pair of like water pump pliers or something like that. But this is just a real big adjustable wrench. And so I take it and I put it on this top portion here, as you can see. So the valve is inward too far this way. I need to bend this arm towards the back of the case to try to make this right. And I'm going to tweak that a little bit. Let me see if I can put you guys on hold for a second and come back. Because I'm going to need both hands for this. Okay. So I've done that, and I'm sorry I couldn't let you see that, but alright, so let's put this valve body back in. And of course I've got to line this up. Alright, so let's put our bolt in down here, just finger tight. And we're going to put this one in finger tight. And I think I'm back in reverse, but I'll know in a minute. Okay. So I'm back in reverse. Now, if you kind of move, you can move this valve body usually just a little bit front to back. If you kind of look here, you can see that move a little bit. So you got a little bit of play in the holes that you can kind of work with some, but so let's kind of take that to our advantage. All right, let me measure this again here and see where we're at. All right, not bad, not bad. We're at now about 55. So that's not bad. I think I'd like to come out a little bit more maybe, but what I'm going to do first, because now I'm going to do my second check. Okay, so I'm going to shift this all the way down into what would be all, manual low position on a stock valve body. Or in this case, because it's a reverse pattern, this is actually third gear now, because that's been changed. But so basically I just shifted all the way in the other direction. And what I'm going to do here, you can see the valve, you can see this manual select valve here. I'll point to it. You can see the manual select valve sticking out from the casting now. I'm going to measure how far that sticks out. Okay. So let's do that. I'm going to get my dial calipers in here. All right. So there we go. We are just under an inch. And that's good. I like that. You don't want to be more than an inch. You can be an inch, but I actually prefer, in a perfect world, maybe about 20, 30 thou under. Kind of like what I like in the reverse position, where we're 20 to 30 thou below the casting. But it doesn't usually work out perfect like that. But, again, don't, check this. You got to make it right, but don't start splitting hairs on it. You can drive yourself crazy. So this is pretty good right here. I think I'm going to go with this one. I might, just because I'm a glutton for punishment, I might just try to tweak another 10 thou out of it. Probably unnecessary, but I wanted to show you that because this is something, with all the questions that I get, nobody ever asks, hey man, I checked that and it is off. How do I fix it? Nobody ever asks that, and that surprises me with all the questions I get. And then, like I said, I do get, hey, I'm missing a gear. Well, I'm pretty sure I know why. Or maybe, even worse than missing a gear, you can kind of cross up between gears, and that's very bad. The transmission, I try to make these valve bodies pretty safe so they tend not to lock up like some others can, but I really work hard on safety and the designs to compensate for things that happen like this. But you can get cross leaks and things, and the unit just will not, it just won't last. You'll have burnt clutches, or a band or something, and you'll just be fighting this problem and not understanding why. And that'll be why this manual select valve, I think I'll do another video on this too. I want you to understand how critical this really is, and I'm not just blowing smoke here. When you work on valve bodies and see how this stuff really works, it's really, the power that's in the hands of this little valve, and just a small amount of movement off, a 1/16 of an inch or so, because that's all we're talking about. A a 1/16 or less really can cause a problem. So I know a lot of people aren't doing this check, or they do this check and they're like, I don't know, it's off a little, I guess, but I don't know, we'll just put it in and see what happens. Oh, yeah, that didn't work. Yeah, hey, Mr. Broader, your valve body's junk. Doesn't work, man. Well, they work pretty well when you know how to set them up, just like anything else. And again, this isn't just with our valve body. This is every valve body. This would be just a stock one. If you just put a stock one back in, you need to do this. Stock one not as critical, because if you can fine drive, you're not really using manual first and second much. If you can kind of fine drive, park, and reverse, nobody really complains much, But sometimes they don't last. If you're in drive enough where the unit kind of works, but you're cross leaking and bleeding pressure off and things like that, the unit just won't last. And you can look at everything else and spend $1 million on fancy clutch plates and air check everything and go through your valve body 50 times. Man, everything just looks great. Well, alignment may be off. So I wanted to kind of show you that, and I really want to stress how important this is. And somebody pointed out to me, man, you're always picking on shops. Why are you picking on shops? Well, I don't mean to pick on shops, and probably the majority of shops are great, and they do excellent work, and they're great people. I know a lot of shops. But you have these handful of guys that are, let's just say not so great. The reason I get on shops is I hold them to a higher standard. If you're a transmission shop and you're not making these checks, and even when I'm sending you instructions to remind you and you're not bothering with it, I'm sorry, I hold you to a higher standard than I would a guy that is doing this for his first time and he's never even pulled the pan off an automatic. I don't really get on that person too much, but the shop that builds these, and they like to brag, I've been in the business for 40 years. Wonderful. Now go and get your dial caliper out and measure this manual select valve. Make sure that's right. And it won't take 40 years. Don't care. Don't need a resume. This is just what needs to be done by everybody. And if you're a shop and you're stubborn and I never checked that, that's not an issue. I just showed you it was an issue. I didn't create this for this video. This is a unit I'm just putting together right now, and it was just not where I wanted it. Would it have still worked? Maybe. I'd have to, the only way I'd know for sure if that would have worked the way it was, I'd have to take this valve body apart and physically look at the position of the manual select valve relative to the casting. But why take a chance and, just get it as right as you can. And, you want to improve your chances. So, anyways, yeah, I don't mean to get on shops or anything or go off on a tangent and upset somebody. But you are a shop. If you are a shop, you're just held to a higher standard, as am I. And that's why I point these things out. So, anyways, and if you're a guy doing this your first time, yeah, this is going to be a little, little frustrating for you maybe. You kind of just wanted to put it in, especially if you're underneath the car and there's transmission oil dripping in your face trying to do this. Yeah, that's annoying. This is gravy on the bench like I'm doing it. But when you're doing it in the car, yeah, it's very difficult and frustrating. I get it. I've done it. And I'm from New England, and I have had, I've been working on underneath my cars, laying on 4-inch thick slab of ice in the wintertime, and wind whipping and blowing, and you're trying to do something on a transmission or anything else, and oh my God, it's, I don't miss those days. That's why I moved down south. So, But then you contend with the heat, so I don't know, you know. But anyways, I'm getting off track here, so I hope that helps you out. I'm gonna do some more videos on this because it's so important, and there's a lot to say on the C6 specifically in this issue. So, anyways, I'll keep doing these, and thanks for watching.